Well, the Mud Hens road trip continues as we welcome in Matt Melzak from the Hens. And Matt, the first week out in St. Paul, not a good week. They dropped 5 of 6 against the Saints.
You know what, Mark? We talked about this last week. We talked about, okay, you know what? This is a tough road trip. You got 2 really good teams. St. Paul, who's playing as good a baseball as anybody right now in AAA. And then you get Iowa, who's also playing very well, especially in the start of this second half, that Toledo's going to have to face. And you know what? Was Toledo playing great when they went out there? No, they weren't. So now all of a sudden you run into a team that is mashing. They're playing great baseball. They're pitching it very well, and it showed. I mean, and it was a tough series there in St. Paul, and it's not, Mark, going to get any easier this week.
One of the bright spots, though, continues to be Parker Meadows. We have seen him be consistently good the entire season. It certainly looks as if the Tigers' plans to keep him in AAA the entire year, let him get that full year of seasoning, and that's going to pay off for the Mud Hens.
You would think so. I mean, yes, it certainly does help for us to see him playing in a Mud Hens uniform. The question will be is maybe after tomorrow, is he still with the Mud Hens, or is he up in Detroit? Who knows? You never know. For him, but he's certainly proving that case. Yeah, I mean, he did start a little bit slow if you think back to April and into early May, but then, boy, since then, he's been a very consistent hitter the last 2 to 3 months at the plate, plus his defense is great. That was going to be his calling card in the first place. It was can the bat. He's very similar in a different position to Ryan Kreidler. We talked about Kreidler a lot the last couple of years when he came up, and we're like, wow, this guy can field. This guy's got a glove that doesn't quit, and that was actually the calling card on him as he's been coming up the minors, but could he hit well enough? And then when he started hit well enough, now all of a sudden you're going, boy, maybe we've got a player here. It's the same thing with Parker Meadows. That's the thing. The glove is there. It's ready to roll. It's the bat. And it's kind of the opposite of Justin Henry Malloy. Justin Henry Malloy's got the bat that you're like, that thing's ready for the majors right now. Where does he field? Where does he fit in the defensive side of things? Those are the things that he's still working on. Whereas, you know, Parker Meadows, you can slot him in center field. He's terrific in left or right. You could play him anywhere in that outfield, and he's going to do well.
And Justin Henry Malloy's actually made a couple of good highlight reel type catches this past week in St. Paul. But as you alluded to earlier, on Tuesday's Major League Baseball trade deadline, so that could affect the Hens roster, as it certainly doesn't look as if the Tigers are going to be buyers. They might be sellers if they can find a market for some guys, so that might mean some more influx for that Hens roster.
It could. It could mean, depending on who you get back, could those players be Mud Hens right away? You never know. I mean, when you look at it, just depends on the farm system and the team you're trading with, certainly, and depends on what your haul is. Maybe it's enough to push some guys up to AAA. So it could change the landscape of it. That's why baseball is so interesting all the way down to the end, because depending on whether it's with Detroit with some of these guys, maybe you're watching Parker Meadows the last month and a half in the Tigers uniform, or even the last 2 months, or, you know, are you seeing him the rest of the way, or are you seeing other guys? That's what makes baseball interesting. You look at what the Reds have done with bringing up, and they had a lot of young guys that started to peak in last year at the end of the year and into the early part of this year, and now all of a sudden they're competing for a division. Could that happen? And you look back to the previous year as a good indicator for them this year.
Hens continue on this 2-week road trip. They're out in Iowa all week long. And then the good news is after that, they're back home for 2 weeks. So we've got a lot to look forward to once we get into that second week of August with home baseball at Fifth Third Field. I want to thank Matt Melzak from the Toledo Mud Hens for dropping in. Thank you, Matt.
I appreciate it, Mark.